They sailed into history on ships that could conquer oceans and slip silently up rivers. Feared across continents, they weren't just ruthless raiders. They were skilled traders, master shipbuilders, and fearless explorers who reached North America 500 years before Columbus. But the truth about the Vikings is far stranger, more surprising, and more brilliant than you've ever been told. From warriors who fought in a trance-like rage, to women with rights unheard of in medieval Europe, to ancient navigation techniques that could guide them through fog and storm. These are the secrets of a civilization that changed the world. This is the Mind Metrics, and here are 30 fascinating facts about the Vikings you've never heard before. Fact 1. Vikings didn't wear horned helmets. The iconic horned helmet is pure myth. No archaeological find from the Viking Age has produced a helmet with horns. Real Viking helmets were practical, made of iron or hardened leather with rounded or conical shapes to deflect weapon strikes. The horned image was popularized in the 1800s by artists and costume designers for Wagner's operas. And it stuck in pop culture, despite being historically inaccurate. Horns in battle would have been cumbersome, dangerous, and completely impractical for close combat. Fact 2. They were skilled shipbuilders. Viking longships were marvels of naval engineering. Built with a clinker method, overlapping planks of oak or pine, they were strong, flexible, and surprisingly light. This allowed them to handle the open ocean swells yet sail up shallow rivers that other ships couldn't navigate. Their symmetry meant they could reverse direction without turning around. Perfect for quick getaways during raids. These ships were so advanced that medieval chroniclers often compared them to sea serpents gliding across the waves. Fact 3. They reached North America 500 years before Columbus. Around the year 1000, Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, sailed west from Greenland and reached a land he called Vinland, believed to be in modern Newfoundland, Canada. Archaeological excavations at L'Anse aux Meadows have uncovered Norse-style buildings, iron nails, and tools, proving Viking presence in North America centuries before Columbus. However, conflicts with indigenous peoples and the logistical challenges of supply lines ended their stay after only a few years. Fact 4. Vikings were farmers as well as warriors. Most Vikings weren't full-time raiders. The majority lived as farmers, growing barley, oats, rye, and wheat, and raising livestock like cattle, sheep, pigs, and goats. Farming dictated their yearly schedule. Planting and harvesting seasons determined when they could leave for raiding or trading expeditions. Raiding was a way to gain wealth and prestige, but farming sustained their communities through long Scandinavian winters. Fact 5. They had a complex legal system. Viking society was governed by a democratic-like assembly called the Thing, held in open-air meeting places. The Thing was where free men could voice opinions, settle disputes, and decide on new laws. A law speaker would recite the laws from memory as they weren't written down. Punishments ranged from fines to outlawry, which stripped a person of all legal protection, effectively marking them for death. Fact 6. They were expert navigators. Without compasses, Vikings relied on their deep knowledge of the environment. They used the sun, stars, and coastal landmarks to navigate and may have employed sunstones, crystals like Iceland spar that can detect the sun's position even through clouds or fog. Combined with their lightweight ships, these skills allowed them to explore and trade over distances few in the medieval world dared to attempt. Fact 7. Viking women had more rights than many of their time. In Viking society, women could inherit land, own businesses, and even divorce their husbands, rights unheard of in most of medieval Europe. If a marriage ended, a woman could take her dowry and half the household goods. Women also managed farms while men were away and could represent their families at the Thing. Fact 8. They loved storytelling and poetry. Oral storytelling was the backbone of Viking culture. Skalds, poets who memorized and recited epic tales, were respected members of society. They used intricate metaphors and alliteration to craft sagas of gods, legendary heroes, and historical battles. These sagas weren't written down until centuries later in Iceland, preserving a blend of history, legend, and moral lessons. Fact 9. They practiced paganism before converting to Christianity. The Norse pantheon included Odin, the one-eyed god of wisdom, Thor, the thunder-wielding protector of mankind, and Freya, the goddess of love and war. Their rituals included animal sacrifices and seasonal festivals like Yule, which celebrated the winter solstice. The shift to Christianity began in the 10th century, often as a result of political alliances or royal conversions, blending old traditions with new faith. Fact 10, their raids targeted more than just wealth. While gold, silver, and fine goods were prized, Vikings also targeted people. Captured men, women, and children were taken as slaves, called thralls, and sold in markets from Dublin to Constantinople. Slavery was a major part of the Viking economy, and raids were as much about acquiring human labor as they were about treasure. Fact 11, they groomed themselves regularly. Contrary to the dirty barbarian stereotype, Vikings took hygiene seriously. Excavations have uncovered combs, ear picks, razors, and tweezers made from bone or antler. They bathed weekly, far more often than most Europeans of the time, and often bleached their hair using a strong soap, possibly for fashion and to kill lice. Fact 12, they used symbolic tattoos. While no preserved Viking skin exists to confirm tattoos, Arabic traveler Ahmad ibn Fadlan wrote in the 10th century that Vikings he met were covered in dark blue-green designs from their fingertips to their necks. These tattoos may have depicted animals, runes, or Norse deities, serving as markers of identity, protection, or personal achievement. Fact 13, they had unique burial rituals. Viking burials varied greatly depending on wealth and status. Some were cremated, their ashes placed in urns. Others were buried in graves with weapons, jewelry, and tools. The most prestigious burials were ship burials, where the deceased was placed in a boat surrounded by grave goods, symbolizing a journey to the afterlife. In rare cases, slaves and animals were sacrificed to accompany the dead. Fact 14, not all Vikings were Scandinavian. While the core Viking homelands were Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, crews often included people from conquered territories, Irish, Scottish, Slavic, and more. Skill and loyalty mattered more than origin, and some of these foreign recruits became full members of Viking communities. Fact 15, they founded cities across Europe. Vikings didn't just destroy, they built. They established Dublin in Ireland, York in England, and Normandy in France. These cities became thriving trade hubs and integrated Norse culture with local traditions, influencing architecture, law, and language for centuries. Fact 16, they traded across vast distances. Viking trade routes spanned continents. They exported furs, walrus ivory, amber, and iron in exchange for silver, silk, spices, and glassware. Their goods have been found as far south as Baghdad and as far east as Central Asia, making them true global traders of the medieval age. Fact 17, they used runic writing. The runic alphabet, known as the Futhark, was used for memorial stones, magical charms, and everyday markings. Each rune carried symbolic meaning beyond its phonetic value, and inscriptions sometimes combined practical messages with mystical protection. Fact 18, Viking armor was practical, not flashy. Most warriors wore simple tunics, trousers, and leather or wool cloaks. Protection came from wooden shields, helmets, and, if they could afford it, a shirt of chainmail. Heavy armor was rare as it slowed movement and made long voyages more exhausting. Fact 19, they had a reputation for ferocity in battle. Vikings relied on shock tactics, swift raids at dawn or during religious festivals when defenses were low. Their speed and brutality made them feared across Europe, and medieval monks often prayed for deliverance from the fury of the Northmen. Fact 20, Berserkers were legendary Viking warriors. These fighters were said to enter battle in an uncontrollable rage, ignoring wounds and fighting without fear or even armor. Theories suggest they may have used hallucinogenic mushrooms or alcohol combined with intense ritual to induce their frenzied state. Fact 21. They used winter camps for raiding seasons. During long campaigns, Vikings built fortified winter camps near their targets. These served as bases for repairing ships, storing loot, and planning spring raids. Many of these camps eventually grew into permanent towns. Fact 22. They shaped the English language. Old Norse had a massive influence on English vocabulary, especially in regions under Viking control. Words like husband, window, knife, and sky come from Norse, and many English place names, ending in by or thorpe, are of Viking origin. Fact 23. They explored deep into Russia. The Varangians, Norse traders and warriors, traveled the rivers of Eastern Europe, founding trade hubs like Novgorod and Kiev. They controlled routes that connected Scandinavia to the Byzantine Empire, and many served as elite guards, known as the Varangian Guard, for the emperor in Constantinople. Fact 24. They valued honor above all else. A Viking's reputation was his most valuable possession. Honor dictated social standing, alliances, and even survival. Acts of bravery were celebrated in sagas, while dishonor could lead to exile or revenge killings that lasted for generations. Fact 25. They played competitive sports. Sports were both entertainment and training for war. Wrestling, skiing, swimming, and the fast-paced ball game, Natal-Eker kept warriors fit and ready for combat. These games also provided opportunities to prove strength and skill in front of peers. Fact 26. They had a love for ale and mead. Alcohol played a central role in Viking feasts and ceremonies. Mead, made from fermented honey, was associated with divine inspiration and poetry. Ale was consumed daily, not only for enjoyment, but because it was safer than drinking untreated water. Fact 27. Their gods were not immortal in the traditional sense. Unlike the invincible gods of many mythologies, Norse gods could be injured or killed. They were fated to die in Ragnarok, a cataclysmic battle after which the world would be destroyed and reborn, with a few surviving gods leading humanity into a new age. Fact 28. They used sagas as historical records. Icelandic sagas, written in the 13th century, preserved centuries-old oral traditions. While they often blended fact and fiction, they provide detailed accounts of voyages, battles, and family feuds, offering invaluable insights into Viking society and values. Fact 29. Viking influence reached as far as the Middle East. Viking silver hoards contain coins minted in Baghdad, evidence of direct trade links. They likely acquired these coins through trading furs, slaves, and amber along river routes stretching deep into the Islamic world. Fact 30. The Viking Age ended gradually. There was no single event that ended the Viking Age. As Scandinavian kingdoms adopted Christianity, centralized political control, and new economic systems, raiding became less viable. The former raiders became kings, merchants, and farmers, blending into the fabric of medieval Europe. The Viking Age may have ended nearly 1,000 years ago, but their legacy is still all around us. In the words we speak, the cities they built, and the myths that still inspire books and movies today. They were more than raiders. They were farmers, poets, traders, explorers, and innovators who pushed the limits of their world and reshaped the course of history. And while we've uncovered 30 fascinating facts today, there are still countless Viking secrets buried in the sagas, waiting for the right eyes to find them. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another deep dive into history's most intriguing civilizations. Thanks for watching, and like always, stay curious.